Okay, welcome to a new episode of Coaching Board, where I'll be sharing some tips and tricks on coaching, my personal experience, and some topical issues that might be going on in the football soccer world. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at warm-ups, more specifically the difference between doing a warm-up with amateur players or youth team players and professional players. So obviously this is coming from more of me and my experience in this, but one of my first jobs in professional football was doing the warm-ups. So this was at training every single day. It was when we went abroad to do training camps, before the sessions over there, and then also before the games. And then also, I've then worked, like I said, in youth football and amateur football doing the warm-ups. So the number one biggest difference for me is the volume of warm-ups that you have to do as a professional. So the players are in 5 days a week, and then you've got 2 games, call it Saturday and a Tuesday. And then you may even, if you're travelling on a Tuesday, you may even do a session in the morning on the way to an away game, and then you've got to do another warm up before the game. So ultimately, you start racking up 7-8 warm ups a week with the same group of players. Some of the players hate doing warm ups, don't think it's necessary, and then you'll get the other half of players that'll kind of just do what you tell them to do. However, what you've got to be careful of is you don't want to be doing the same thing every day because they get bored. However, they want the familiarity of the routine of it, so they want it to be very similar. Okay, so where are we? So with professionals doing the warm-up, you're going to be doing a lot of warm-ups every single day. A lot of the players want the familiarity, but they don't want to be bored, which makes it very, very tricky. And then you've got a group of players that don't want to do the warm-up. They just want to play football. And then the difference between sort of the youth level and certainly with the younger, like under 18s and down, they're more open to different games. Now they have the same thing where some of them want the routine. Certainly if you're looking at like 16, 17 year olds, and I would also say in America it's a little bit different again with the warm-ups with the youth side of things, because a lot of coaches, what I've seen from state to state, will give them sort of generic 5-10 minute warm-up that the captain will lead, and that's fine, especially if you look at the American program, youth program, they might be playing sort of 3 or 4 games over the course of the weekend, and they normally have a coach that's in charge of 3 or 4 other teams that might be travelling to the game and just make it for kick-off. So that's slightly different to Europe, where they'll just play one game on the weekend, and it's sort of very, very similar to like how the professionals do it with the one game, and the coach turns up 30 minutes, 45 minutes before the game. Now, again, this was probably one thing I would try to do with the warm-ups was, after watching Bayern Munich, so Guardiola's fitness coach, Lorenzo Buenaventura. Again, might have just butchered his last name. One thing that I noticed with him, and I certainly sort of tried to model my own warm-ups and my coaching style on him early on, was he was able to mix the fitness element, which I'm quite passionate about, with the playing the football coaching element, and he's able to marry them both together. So how that works is you get the fitness warm-up element which is normally typically isolated from the football element. So typically or traditionally you'll get the warm-up where they'll go for a run and a stretch and do some activation, dynamic movements, and then it will go into, normally it will go into one of the coaches or the first team coach, and he'll lead part of this. He'll lead the session that's going to then go into the bigger picture stuff. So it's normally sort of fast, intense, and just gets the players going. Now the difference with Lorenzo and Guardiola's backroom team, he pairs both parts of that warm up in the same thing. Now, side note, certainly at Bayern Munich and Barcelona, they would do 30 minutes of activation in the training ground in the building and then go out onto the field. But when they come out onto the field, they're straight in with Lorenzo, who's then taking them through a sort of fitness stroke football warm-up. However, like I said, I made the mistake when I was younger, trying to mix it up probably a little bit too much with the warm-ups, and I wanted to keep the players stimulated, but sometimes like the explanation and getting the players to understand it right at the start of the session, when some of them have drove into the training ground, it's early in the morning, and I could have done with like a little bit more time to do it. And also I needed to be a little bit stricter with how that would run in terms of numbers of players. So again, that's just something you learn in real world that in the professional environment you can't get away with, but if you're with sort of youth teams or amateur levels, you can get away with that. So lesson learned. So biggest difference to sort of round up the video. Youth team, amateurs, you can be a little bit more experimental, and you can play around a little bit more with the games. When you get to 16, 17, 18, a little bit more structure needs to come in, because there are certain movements that need to be in there to help against the injury prevention movements. I'm working through different levels of intensity so they are game ready. Now if you're changing and mixing it up all the time, it's going to be difficult to kind of get that seamless. And like I said, when it's a professional player, you don't want anything to go wrong, so you want to lower the risk of injury, and you want them psychologically and physically ready to go. Again, if this is sort of a route that you're already in or want to take, I would certainly look at Lorenzo. There's not many coaches that are doing that style. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying to do a warm-up that's like a 5v5 game or a 3v3, which you can do with the younger players, because they can go right into that. What I'm talking here is sort of like a dynamic movement that opens up, that then includes a little bit of a ball, and it might just be a little bit passing to start, or it might be a little bit of a control on the chest and a layoff, and then sort of a change of direction. So it was that type of stuff. Now I have got some videos somewhere on my computer, so I might try and put them in at a later date. If you're interested in them, let me know, and like I said, I'll make an effort to do a video on that. So yeah, that's it for this video on warm-ups, professional versus amateur, and I'll probably do another video a little bit more specific on timing. I didn't want to go into timing on this one, because that's another issue that is probably take a good 5 minutes for me to explain. Also, just to note, like I said, this is my personal experiences. Nothing's like the golden rule. You can play around with it, you can experience what works yourself, but like I said, a word of caution is I went from sort of youth team background and getting a degree and being very, very book smart on exactly how to warm a player up and what they need, then went into a professional environment, real world environment, where you're trying to tell them exactly what they need to do, but then this player, it might be your best player, but has his own routine. He's quite happy to do 10-15 minutes of the warm up, but then wants to do 2-touch, say, or a bit of head tennis or headers, or he prefers like opening his stride out. Like these are all elements that you need to consider, be flexible with, be aware of, so that you're not caught off guard. Okay, thanks for watching. Yeah, new video coming soon.